You're listening to the Reflective Teacher Podcast, and this is episode number 11. I'm Selena Woodward, and I'm an English and drama teacher, university lecturer, and with edufolios.org, a big-time reflective practitioner. So how can reflective practice help you grow your teaching skills, fall in love with your profession all over again, and help you nail accreditation and teacher registration with less stress and less work? Well, this is the Reflective Teacher Podcast. Welcome back. This Wednesday, we're talking about writing an evidence post for the very first time. This is something that comes up a lot because, like most things in life, the first time we do anything can be a little bit uncomfortable. It can also be a bit cognitively overwhelming, can't it? Not knowing where to start, not knowing whether you're doing it correctly. Well, obviously the first thing to do is just give it a go and to try. But I have a few ideas here. I have 8 of them that will help you to just reduce some of that stress and move forward, hopefully a little quickly. So the first thing I want you to do is take off the pressure. I want you to understand that as teachers, we have a habit of really loving the idea of perfection. Perfection is something that we often strive for, and whenever I talk about this with educators face to face, there will be a whole heap of smiles and nods of, yeah, that's me. But I want you to recognize that it is totally impossible to find perfection in a classroom. There is no way you are going to be perfect for 30 different individual students and all of their parents and everything. It's just not possible. There are too many factors. Even if you planned the perfect lesson, if the wind is high, like it is right now outside, I don't know if you can hear it, the wind is high and the moon is full, as you know, it's going to be a tricky day. All right, there's just too much going on, too many individuals, and it's okay. What's more important is that instead of a perfectionist, you become a reflectionist. Now, if you're an Edufolios user, you will have come across the word reflectionist before because it's really a mainstay of what we do. We are a big fan of forgetting about perfection and working on this new thing that we completely invented ourselves. It's the word reflectionist. It's a noun, and it's a passionate learner that reflects on their practice to achieve professional growth. Now, when you think about that, a passionate learner that reflects on their practice to achieve professional growth, that's very different to being a perfectionist. A perfectionist mindset means that you feel that you've got to the point where you've done it and it is brilliant and there is nothing else to learn. Why on earth would you want to be that person? No. We are going to be reflectionists. And as you write, by taking the pressure of perfection away, you are going to acknowledge that what you're writing about is reflecting on what went well and what you'd like to grow so that you can achieve personal growth. So it doesn't matter if you make mistakes. Those should be celebrated. We're going to unpack them. So just take the pressure away. You are no longer a perfectionist. You are instead a reflectionist. The second thing I want you to do is to start with you and your practice and what you're doing in your classroom. What's lighting you up during your day and what's making you feel a bit bleh. Now, we talked a little bit about this in our goal setting episode at edufolios.org/001. It was the very first episode. And if this is something you'd like to know more about, then I would definitely go and listen to that at edufolios.org/001. But it's important that you tune into your teacher spidey senses, as I call them, because those are the things that will guide you to what you are doing, what you're doing well, and what you need to grow. And if you start with the standards and you say, right, today I'm going to write a post about 1.1, physical, social, and intellectual development and characteristics of students, it instantly becomes so detached and so much more difficult. And to be perfectly honest with you, it is pretty much impossible to write one reflection that only covers one focus area like that. It really is totally difficult. I've never come across a post that manages it, because as soon as you were talking about your students, if you did pick it that way and you did start with physical, social and intellectual development and characteristics of students, as soon as you start talking about your students, you'll start exploring how you know that. How do you know about their intellectual development? Well, there's only one way. You're going to have used assessment. That's standard 5, right? You're going to start moving around. You're going to talk about how you've met, perhaps, those social and intellectual or physical development needs. And to do that, you'll be talking about the content of the curriculum, your lesson planning, conversations you've had with colleagues where you've learnt these tricks and tips. Can you see how hard it's going to be to just talk about one focus area or one focus area descriptor? Because obviously we should drill down below that to our career stage. So I want you to understand that if you start by talking about what you did, what felt good, what you'd like to work and talk about, and then come back and look at the standards and use them and go, right, did I talk about my students? Great. Well, that would be standard 1. Did I talk about content? Great. Well, that would probably be standard 2 then, and so on and so forth. You leave it like that. That's it. Those standards. Now let's drill down. Let's look at the focus area at the top level. Did I talk about anything to do with physical, social, or intellectual development? And you need to know that for 1.1, you need to meet all 3 of those: physical, social, and intellectual development. Did I? Okay, good. What career stage am I at? Can you remember this from episode 3? Where we looked at cracking the focus area code? That's edufolios.org/003 if you'd like to know more about this. But if you do it this way, if you start with your practice, it's what you're familiar with. It's what just happened today. Write about it first and then find the focus areas to help you deepen that and select the artifacts, the photographs, the unit plans, whatever it is you think you're going to need. It's all there outlined for you in those focus area descriptors at your career stage. So go and listen to edufolios.org/003 for more information on that. But definitely do not start with the standards. Oh, that's so much harder. Okay, number 3, and this is for Selena, because Selena really struggles with this. If you've ever read my Edufolio, which you're welcome to do, edufolios.org/Selena Woodward, and you'll find me, and you will go, oh, Selena, you need to listen to number 3. This advice is for you. Okay, there's no pressure to write a novel every time or ever. If you look at my posts, you might notice I love talking. I love writing too. And I just keep going. All right. Do not imagine that that is what you need to be doing. When I work with pre-service teachers in some of the unis we work with, I always talk about how that is not sustainable. All right. While you're growing and learning at that rate, student teachers, you need to make sure that you're not spending a whole 3 hours writing up stuff. Okay. As much as you're passionate, it's cool. I love you for it. I'm a Hermione too. I get it. It's really important to balance that. I mean, last week's podcast was about well-being. A lot of time and stick to it. Don't let this creep in. All right. Sometimes it's okay to share a quick aha moment. Oh, this happened. It was amazing. I'd like to unpack why. Here's the artifacts to show you the difference between where they were and where they're at now. Okay, that is so much more powerful than, well, 2,000 words later. So can you keep me in check with that? Please tell me off if I go and write more novels, because that is a problem I have to address too. All right, so number 1 was, let's take the pressure off. There's no such thing as perfection, so what are we worried about? Number 2 was, we are not going to start with the standards. We're going to start with what's familiar. We're going to write about what we're doing already, because that is good enough. And we're going to again use the focus areas to inform what we need to put in our posts and the language we might use afterwards. We're going to edit it. Number 3, keep it short, sharp, and shiny, and all about impact. It does not need to be a novel. Number 4, and this one comes up a lot with people who are new to this reflective practice thing. You are not writing an academic essay, and it is totally okay to use your own voice. So think about how you're going to present yourself. I'm not saying use your totally informal, it's got to be professional, but it is also not an academic essay. So don't write in a way that doesn't make you feel comfortable. The art of reflection is about getting into flow, about thinking about what you've loved, what's not gone right, delving deep, really getting in there. And if you're having to think too much about how you're writing that, then it's going to slow you down. That's why we don't do the standards first too. Just write everything down and then come back to the standards. And equally, as you're writing, just be you. You can use spell check, you can do grammar checks later. Let it out first. At least you'll have something there you can build on. It's important that your voice is you. And this is about you. It's not about anybody else. Even if this is something you're handing up at uni or something you're giving in for accreditation, this portfolio of practice is about you and who you are and how you're growing. Okay? That's what it is first and foremost. Number 5, add artifacts. Now, artifacts are bits of proof, evidence that what you've just said is actually true. And we know that we need to focus on impact. So as we're writing about what felt good and why, we're going to be probably saying, well, it felt really good because I saw student A move from A to B. And you should be able to show me A and B. All right, so what are the artifacts? Again, edufolios.org/003 talks about the language of the focus areas and how they give you clues about what the artifacts might be. But make sure that you choose your artifacts and that you put them in there. Okay, equally, an artifact on its own is no good either. All right, we've got to have both. The evidence and the annotation. The artifact, the proof, and the explanation of what that shows and why. Okay. Right. 6, targets. Always set yourself a target. When you get to the end of your post, say things I have learnt or things I would like to do next. Set yourself a target, and then in a few weeks you can write another post addressing whether or not you've met that target. Easy. It's an easy way to gather evidence and make all the pieces fit together beautifully. All right. And when it comes to adding the standards, number 7, do that later. I kind of talked about this already a little bit. So write it all down and then go, did I talk about my students? Did I talk about the content of the curriculum? And in Edufolios, this is how it works, isn't it? You then just tick those boxes. And then the next step, it will focus you down onto your focus area descriptors. Okay, so if you're using Edufolios, we walk you through this process. If you're not, make sure that you keep it simple and then dive down, all the way down into the focus area descriptor at your career stage so you can find the language that you need. And lastly, when it comes to adding those focus areas, you need to make sure that you do so in a way that's going to help you get more and more and more out of your profile and what you're doing, out of your portfolio. Okay, so in Edufolios, you're going to use our inbuilt standards guide and you're going to select from the list, and our system is going to produce you beautiful, colorful heat maps that show you where your strengths are and the things you're avoiding talking about. Whatever you're using, and I hope it's Edufolios because obviously it's awesome. Whatever you're using, you need to make sure that you are consistent in how you are using those focus areas so you can get that data out. In our system, we help you with that, but if you're not using our system, make sure you have a way of tracking where your strengths and weaknesses are. All right. And also you might change your mind. You might have thought that you covered a particular focus area. And then when you read it again, realize that you didn't, or you did at a different career stage. And that is perfectly normal. That is a really great sign that you are developing your understanding of your practice and you're moving forward. Hooray! Okay? Now, finally, I want you to know that writing an evidence post is about you reflecting and taking time out from what you're doing to think about what's going brilliantly and celebrate for a minute and what you're going to do to have your impact be even stronger. And if you do this regularly, if you make time to do this regularly, and we have a podcast on that too, obviously, if you make time to do this regularly, then you will find yourself making this easier and easier and easier, okay? You will find this coming to you really, really easily, okay? So if you listen to edufolios.org/005, you will be able to download a planning tool that helps you make time to reflect and helps you find the topics that you'd like to reflect on. So we even remove that cognitive load for you. It's really important that you practice and practice and practice. And remember, point 1, perfectionism does not exist. Reflectionism is king. So it's okay for it to be something you practice and you get better and better at. Connect with other Edufolios users if you can. Get them to check what you're doing and support each other and grow. That is what we're all here to do. Okay, so hopefully those 8 tips are going to help you move forward now and write the most amazing evidence post. And if you're listening to this and you've just completed your first term, you're about to start your second, then please remember that you learnt a whole heap of fabulous stuff last term, and you need to make time to make some notes about that. Document that and begin to look at the impact that you had. You deserve that time to celebrate the impact you have just had on your students. Make sure you make time to do that. It's going to be great evidence for full registration or proficiency, but more importantly, it's going to reinvigorate you and help you to understand why you love this job even more. Okay. Thank you for listening to the Reflective Teacher podcast. We'll be chatting about this live on Facebook at facebook.com/edufolios. We do every week, so make sure you tune in. I will make sure on edufolios.org/011 we have some show notes and some tips and also the links to any lives that we do on this subject. Thank you again for listening. Next week, next Wednesday, we'll be here again, and we're going to talk about social media and its role in your professional development and your growth as an educator. Yes, we're going to talk about whether or not as a teacher you should be on Twitter and Instagram and how you might be able to leverage those connections professionally. So if that's something that interests you, I will see you next Wednesday for the Reflective Teacher podcast. Thanks again for joining us, and I'll see you again soon.